You know, the good thing about this new haircut, some people don't recognize me anymore. Very annoying people. What's good everyone on YouTube? It's me again, back with another video, and yes, I know it's been a really long time since my last video, probably like a month or so, not including the vlog, but that's just because I haven't really been picking up shoes. And for today's video, we're actually looking at a pretty interesting collaboration between Clot and Nike. It's actually more of a reissue with like slight changes of the 2006 Air Max 1, nicknamed the Kiss of Death. Very appropriate name, I guess. And we've got the Kiss of Death again back in 2021. And like I said, there's just some slight changes, but overall it's pretty much the same shoe. So if you've always ever wanted that Air Max, we've got it now here on the channel. I'll let you know my opinions later on, but it's a bit of an interesting one. So without further ado, today we're talking about the Air Max 1 Clots in the Kiss of Death colorway. So with the intro out of the way, let's get into the box. So the box itself is sort of like a matte box with a glossy Nike on the top. It's really like the red Nike sportswear flip lid style boxes, but done in black. But there are a lot of interesting Clot details that they've added. So on the top we've got this sort of white tape that has this like interesting looking like calligraphy. On the back we've got the Clot logo, and then on the front we've actually got these Chinese characters. I hope the light picks this up. If anyone knows what this says in the comments, leave it down below. And we've also got the co-branding on this side. And then when you actually lift open the box, along the rim, just underneath the lid, there's this really interesting sort of like rope pattern. It's a really nice detail in my opinion, and it's a nice way of just like elevating a very simple box. And then on the inside, taped on the lid of the box, we've actually got this anatomy chart. And it's got the English and the traditional Chinese characters on it with numbers. And I think this is supposed to be part of the foot reflexology chart, because on the shoe itself there is a foot reflexology chart on the bottom of the shoe. And then instead of like paper, we've actually got this sort of plastic wrapping with Clot branding and the rope pattern. And then stuffed inside the shoe was standard sort of packing paper, and it also had a little bit of a piece of cardboard to act like a shoe tree. And then attached to one of the shoes we get a pair of extra wax red laces, which I think would be nice on the shoe, but I think they look pretty good as is. And actually at the bottom of the box we've actually got a foot reflexology chart, and the numbers will correspond to the particular part of the foot that the body part is supposed to be linked to. I'm not a foot reflexology expert, but we're just going to go with that. I'm just going to move that to the side. And then we move to the label. It reads Nike Air Max 1 Clot. So the retail price on these retailed in Australia for a price of 220 Australian dollars. I'll put the conversion here. And yeah, got lucky, won a raffle, got my size. What I thought was my size, but I'll get into that in a bit. But pretty happy with that, and I haven't won a raffle in a while, so it's nice to have. So, with the box out of the way, let's get into the shoes. And here we are, the Nike Air Max 1 Clot in the Kiss of Death colorway. So, looking at the shoe, there are some very bright colors on this shoe, namely the midsole and the sort of red details on the swoosh and the back. And actually one of the small changes I'll mention right now is on the original 2006 pair, this back panel was basically inverted, so it was orange with a red embroidery, whereas now we've got this red panel with orange embroidery. So starting off with the upper, a majority of the sort of tan colored panels are done in this nice sort of suede. And around the back we've got this ostrich leather, I'm going to assume it's a print, I don't think it's real ostrich leather, on the collar, which is pretty interesting. And then we've got this small hit of neon green near one of the eyelets, and actually on the Nike Air branding as well. And that's the only time you'll ever see that color, which is kind of an interesting detail in my opinion. And then to the back of the shoe, we've actually got this embroidery with the Clot branding and this sort of rope pattern. And what's interesting is this red panel is actually 3M reflective, so when you hit the shoe with flash, you'll get an interesting pop to it. And then on the swoosh itself, we've got this almost snakeskin pattern on it. But the most obvious thing, and the thing that kind of set this shoe apart from like the rest of Air Maxes that existed back then, was the clear toe panel. And the clear toe panel is back here again, so your sock game is very important, and actually people will see where your foot stops in this shoe. But currently, without a foot inside, you can actually see the insole. And actually the insoles are different on each of the shoes, so there's just some very interesting details. On this shoe we've got a lot of these Chinese characters and a picture of a leg actually with some Clot branding. And I'm not sure what's on the right shoe, but I'll shoot some b-roll and I'll show you guys what that looks like. And then moving down to the midsole, it's your very classic Air Max 1 midsole. Standard foam, air bubble in the back. It's done in a very nice bright sort of neon orange with a red inside of the Air Max bubble. And then moving to the outsole, as I mentioned at the start, we've actually got this icy blue outsole with a colorful foot reflexology chart, and the numbers supposed to correspond to the chart I showed earlier, where each part of your foot leads to a different part in your body. So I think the colorway is supposed to be inspired by, you know, the bright colors on the foot reflexology chart. That's just my assumption, and we'll just call it at that. So that kind of covers the main features of this particular shoe. In terms of sizing, I actually found that this shoe seems to be a little bit big. If you take a look at like the inside, it's actually quite thin, and there's not much padding in the way. There's not much in the way of padding. It's just mostly a thin leather. So when wearing it, I actually found that it's okay at true to size, but the thing about a clear toe panel is you can really see when your foot stops in the shoe, and it's very clear that my foot doesn't reach the end. So if you want a more standard comfortable fit, probably just go true to size. But if you're someone who really wants to sort of complete the shoe and want a little more of a snug fit, I definitely recommend going down half a size in this shoe. So I'm typically a US 9.5 in most of my sneakers. I bought this in a 9.5 and it fits alright, just a little bit long. Now, in terms of comfort, there's not much I can say in terms of like the bottom underfoot comfort. This really feels like a standard Air Max 1. So it's pretty old tech, it's from the 80s, it's not really going to be compressing much, and it feels okay, but it's not anything mind-blowing. The upper itself, the thinness of the back does feel a bit odd because it doesn't really hug your foot all that well. Typical Air Maxes are actually quite padded in the back, so there's this nice sort of like hugging feeling on the back. I just burped. But the plastic at the front actually seems to be quite flexible. They've added perforations that go straight to your foot, so maybe that'll help with breathability, but I could assume this would probably get quite hot. So overall, for an Air Max, it's probably about standard affair in terms of comfort. Now I'll get into the part of the video where I talk about my opinions of this shoe. And I've got this really weird duality when it comes to this shoe. When looking at it just in hand as the shoe itself, as like a piece of art, I actually think this shoe is one of the craziest shoes I've ever seen. I really love the material choices. The colorway is actually very interesting and unique, and this clear toe panel really shows off like the details of the insole, and it makes the shoe look really interesting. But the thing is, when you wear this shoe, I think the Air Max 1 isn't really the most ideal shoe to be doing a clear toe panel, because the toe box is actually quite deep, so even if your foot was filling out the entire shoe, you're still going to see a lot of empty space. And I just feel like when I'm wearing my shoe, I don't particularly want to be seeing like where my foot ends, or like how, like a very specific like foot shape when I'm wearing my shoes. The promotional photos, they kept putting someone barefoot in this, which was absolutely horrid. But I think a good example of a good sort of silhouette or a good see-through shoe would be something like the Blondie Superstars, where the toe box is actually solid, so you don't actually get to see your toes, but the rest of the shoe is see-through, so your sock game still is very important. But for this shoe, because it's just in the toe box, and because the toe box shape isn't really a very shallow toe box, you really sort of see your foot shape, and I just don't think it looks that good, honestly. This may be a controversial thing to say, but I actually think if they had just made this toe box red like the rest of the details, or maybe orange, I think I probably would have preferred it. Now granted, you could wear red socks with this, but I still think it doesn't avoid the shoe, the foot shape situation. So overall, I have to say, even though I love looking at this shoe and I love the way it looks off feet, on feet I actually really don't like it. So this is probably something that if I end up keeping it, it will more be a collector's piece more than anything, because I don't ever see myself wearing this. But that's just my opinion. And with that, we've come to the end of another video. So I'd love to hear what you guys think of the Air Max 1 Clots in the Kiss of Death colorway. And I know there are some other Clot Air Max 1s. I was wondering, what are some of your favorites? So I do remember seeing this like silvery blue pair with a lot of fuse overlays. I don't love the fuse overlays, but the colorway itself is actually quite nice, so that'd probably be one of my favorite Clots. But really interested to hear what you guys have to say. So like, comment, subscribe, leave a comment in the comment section down below. And if you're into more sneaker videos, dance vlogs, that sort of thing, consider subscribing to the channel. Time for the On Feet, and I'll catch you guys in another video.